Well, welcome back to our Yankees podcast. Pete Calera, Midtown Manhattan, Mike Stanton, three-time Yankees world champion reliever in his Houston studios. And I'd like to welcome Dr. David Chao, I believe in San Diego. So we got all quadrants of the states covered. Dr. David Chao spent 17 seasons as the team doctor of the NFL's Chargers. He specializes in orthopedic sports injuries in 3 of the major sports. And Dr. Chao, we're pleased to have you here with us because we're trying to get more clarity, obviously, on Aaron Judge's injury. So let's just go over what we know as fact right now, and then I'll let you comment on after this. But we're taping this on June 28th. Suffered a toe injury on June the 3rd. It was a right toe sprain. Judge has since said he suffered a torn ligament. He is still in pain. He still cannot run. He says this is an unusual baseball injury. The location of the injury is on the left side of his right big toe, and the degree of the tear is unclear right now. Just to throw a caveat out there, you have not examined Aaron Judge. This is just a medical opinion based on information that we're getting, and I'll stay out of the way. What do you think of all that?
Thanks for the intro. I bet some of your listeners and fans are saying, what is Pro Football Doc doing on this Believe in the Bronx podcast? And the reason why I go by Pro Football Doc is there's no question my experience in pro sports is more vast as the head team physician for the Chargers in the NFL. But this turf toe is an NFL injury. And I have spent time, although considerably less, working with the Cubs and the Minnesota Twins. So there is some baseball knowledge. And at Sports Injury Central, what we do is we provide injury analysis, not reporting. You guys do the best job reporting everything and knowing everything. And I look forward to this conversation because you can give me the latest of what's out there publicly in terms of reporting. But what we do is injury analysis based on the information, based on video, etc., and try and add something to the knowledge base that's out there. So it is opinion and injury analysis, and it's not from an exam, and thanks for pointing that out. From the first hearing that it was a turf toe, you heard a lot about what is a turf toe? It's an injury to the first metatarsal phalangeal joint. I hate going big words. I don't like doing models. What is it? It's the bunion joint in your big toe, okay?
There you go.
So it's a very important joint for running, jumping, and push off. And that's a big deal. And this is why weeks ago, we've said that, look, Aaron Judge, if an Aaron Judge fan or a Yankees fan, if you could have Aaron Judge back right after the All-Star break, take it. We've been saying he's out at least through the All-Star break. And this is from a couple weeks ago even. And the reason why is the type of injury it is, a turf toe. It's usually a plantar plate, base of the foot rupture. I had not heard it was the, quote, left side. We would call that the medial side of the foot. There's 2 small sesamoid bones underneath, but it's an injury to the plantar plate, and it makes it very hard to push off, or what we call dorsiflex the big toe, like run, jump, and push off. But the big issue here, and what we've been saying all along, and love to hear any questions, and there's a couple of reasons why we formed that opinion, but we've been saying because it's the right foot, this is a big deal. For some fans might be saying, why can't he just DH? No, hitting is a problem when it's on your back foot. And Mike Stanton can tell the world, I mean, you gotta get up on the balls of your feet as you swing, or as my 10-year-old who's playing his little all-star baseball would say, squish the bug, or whatever
there you go.
Coaches say there now, right? And that's the motion. So it's not a matter of, oh, he can't play right field and be a Gold Glover in right field and cover ground. It's also just for hitting.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And, another caveat here, there's going to be some speculation here since we don't have all the information. Let's talk a little bit in generalities. You've dealt with this, in baseball, we don't have a whole lot of foot injuries, maybe bruises and stuff like that, but not usually ligament damage just because the nature of the sport. What is the time frame for a a ligament tear in a situation like this? I mean, again, we're not talking Judge specifically because we don't know the ins and outs of the injury itself.
No question. And what we call it at Sports Injury Central, and we do all sports, football, baseball, basketball, etc., is we call it insider knowledge, not insider information.
Nice.
No one's calling the Yankees team doctor, who's a very good doctor, and I know him, and he wouldn't tell me anyways because of him, right?
Right.
So this is insider knowledge of medicine, athletes, situations, looking at video, reading the publicly available information, and coming up with an opinion from an insider knowledge perspective, not insider information. Right now, there's no way to know how severe the turf toe situation is, but there are some things that I would find concerning. We've already talked about back foot and pushing off, etc.
Right.
That is a big deal for a hitter. But the other issue is I don't love the way that, and actually when it first happened at Dodger Stadium, I looked at the video, and I will admit it happened so fast. I didn't see a lot on the video, from there, but he stayed in the game. But see, that's what tells you actually can play a little bit of right field, but hitting is harder, right? He actually stayed in the game after it immediately happened. And with this type of injury, we still don't know, is it a grade 1, 2, or 3? There was some sort of comment that you guys told me about that he said he's not having, or what was the exact quote? I don't want to.
I said he implied he was not going to have surgery. Now, he never used the word surgery. He said he was going to, rehab it and, get back as quickly. Surgery was never mentioned.
Yeah. So hopefully that means that he just doesn't need surgery. Not there's two choices, one of surgery, one of not, and he's not going to have surgery. There's different degrees of turf toes, and sometimes you can play through and have delayed surgery. I'm not trying to put the surgery word out there that he needs it, but it is a possibility if it's a significant plantar plate rupture and there's retraction of the tendons, etc. Now, the other thing that's concerning to me was he had 2 PRP injections very quickly back to back. And PRP doesn't work that quickly. Yeah. It's at least 2 weeks of rest and then ramp up. He had boom, boom, 2 of them, maybe not in the exact same location. So right there and then, in the best case scenario, you're looking at 2 weeks after the second one, starting a ramp up that might take 2 weeks. And we're already then pushing the All-Star break. But this is why we've been saying for a week or two, I don't see how he makes it back before the All-Star break. And we'll have to see when he does. And he can't just be inserted as a DH. That won't solve the problem. So those are some of the early concerns with this football injury in this baseball player, although he's built like a football player.
He is that.
Well, yeah, he did say that the reason for the second PRP injection was to hit it from a different angle, or I mean, it made it sound like I don't know if you could have multiple sprains in that right big toe, but they have not used the term turf toe. In fact, he's in an article that John Heyman wrote in the New York Post. He kind of specifically said it wasn't, or that he's not dealing with that because the injury is more to the side of the toe and not underneath where the turf toe would be. I assume. Do you glean anything out of that?
Well, it's all choice of words, right? And and I always like source reporting, probably like you do, and who said it and what's the context makes a big difference to me. And for example, no offense to Aaron Judge, he says it's a ligament. Maybe it's a ligament. Maybe he's calling a ligament part of the plantar plate. Maybe he's calling a ligament the tendon. He's not a doctor. I mean, look, I might confuse a 4-seam and a 2-seam when I'm looking at it, right? I'm not an expert at that. So you have to look at that. And if it's not a turf toe, I don't know where the turf toe talk has all come from. It's certainly the big toe, which, right, by the way, I think most of us in this conversation are old enough to know. I mean, my Sergeant Hulka stripes reference, the big, right, toe. I mean, the big toe is responsible for over 50% of push-off for running and jumping. That's why it's such a big deal, right? And is it a ligament? Is it true classic turf toe or variation. Look, a football analogy. Brock Purdy and his camp, and to some extent the 49ers, have said, hey, look, this is not an ulnar collateral ligament injury. This is not Tommy John surgery. But clearly, by video, it's a tear to the medial side of the elbow, which is where the ulnar collateral ligament is. That is called the Tommy John ligament. Now, is it classic Tommy John ligament reconstruction surgery, which we all know is now more closer to 18 months or whatever for pitchers? Or is this a Tommy John ligament, ulnar collateral ligament repair, which is what they're saying it is? I think you're parsing words sometimes.
Right.
And so that's what you have to look at. The fact that it's his big toe has to do with the push off, and that's where therein lies the problem.
Right. And yeah, we're kind of just splitting hairs in a situation like that. And, it doesn't really do anything to the situation. So depending on the grade of the sprain, depending on if it is a full rupture of the tendon, whatever, I mean, is that something that will heal itself? Will the PRP injections help? Or is this something, if it's, the severity is bad enough, is it something that would require surgery? And a second part of the question would be, is it something he could play with? I mean, is it something that is just pain management, or is it it's just going to affect him in too many different ways?
Well, of course, I don't have access to his MRI and haven't examined or treated him, so it's a little bit speculation. Could it involve surgery? It's possible if it's bad enough. He said ligament, apparently. Is he misusing the term ligament, or is it really a ligament on the side of the toe and a variety of turf toe? It remains to be seen, but could he play through this? The answer is yes, maybe pain tolerance, but you're changing your swing. And we talked before we got on that you were talking about your friend that had a groin and never told anybody, and then all of a sudden he blew out his elbow, right? I mean, if your swing is all of a sudden different, and your mechanics as they always say, the hardest thing to do is to hit a baseball, and you're like honed into doing that. Your quote 10,000 practice swings to change something.
Right.
How he's going to get 10,000 swings in if his foot mechanics and his base is different? So look, he's Aaron Judge. I mean, he probably could do something, but can he be Aaron Judge and just play through the pain? I think it's difficult until it heals. The good news is there are many varieties of turf toe and ligament injuries in the big toe that can heal without surgery. But looking at timing here, I know there hasn't been any official timeline, and that's what we try and do, explain things. And we're not trying to guess. It's an insider knowledge opinion based on what's out there. Post All-Star break is your first realistic chance.
Doctor, just two more from me. One, he mentioned that once the pain subsides to the point where he could tolerate running and then introduce other baseball activity, he would then probably have a cortisone shot. I assume that would be that's more of a masking agent. Correct me if I'm wrong, for pain management. Is that something encouraging that you found if he's talking about cortisone down the road already?
Well, it's encouraging in the thinking that they have a solution and cortisone takes away inflammation. It's discouraging, meaning that even after healing, he feels like there's going to be swelling or stiffness in the toe, that he's going to already project needing a cortisone injection. And I'm not an expert at Aaron Judge's swing, but it's very powerful, and that comes from driving off the back foot and getting up on your big toe there. And that is a big deal. That's all I'm saying. And it's not just a matter of pain, but what it does upstream, right, in the kinetic chain. I mean, if your swing mechanics different, look, NFL players sometimes tape the turf toe and put in a steel plate, but they don't like it. They're not as mobile. Maybe an offensive lineman can get away with it more. And also in the NFL, a lot of times, you guys probably know this, they get magic, what I call acupuncture. It's not really acupuncture. It's a doctor's, MD's acupuncture of numbing injections. When you're doing that once a week, we've done that not infrequently to a turf toe to allow an athlete to play football, but that's once a week. You can't do that 6 or 7 days a week to a baseball player, especially longevity of the season. look, could you do it if the Yankees get to the World Series and do it a couple times? Maybe, but you can't keep injecting it 6-7 days a week for weeks at a time. And this is where baseball is the long game versus what football that we have and have done. And so it's not even fair to compare Aaron Judge's big toe injury to a football one and say, oh, it's grade 2. It should be this timeline. This guy came and returned and played sooner. Yeah. How do you know it wasn't with an injection, which you really can't do for Aaron Judge?
Well, Doctor, this will be the last question. Again, we appreciate you coming on and helping us out with some information here. Just looking at the timeline. I mean, we're pushing 4 weeks, almost a month. There's still no timeline. He's still not doing baseball activity. With your vast knowledge of injuries like this, what does that state in the return? I know we've been talking about possibly post All-Star break, but even that, could that be a little bit too much of a positive situation? Could it be much longer than that?
Well, I don't like to be a doom and gloom guy. I try and break it down
Try and stay positive.
as best he can. I'm not trying for headlines or clicks and so forth. But about a week or 10 days ago, be it YouTube channel, Sports Injury Central, or SICScore.com, we were saying he's out past the All-Star break.
Mm-hmm.
Post All-Star break is the first chance. Now I forget the exact date, a week, 10 days, or close to 2 weeks further into it, and there's no new word, right? And so therefore, if anything, yes, I'm getting ready to potentially extend the timeline, right? But I think we're still sticking solid saying it's going to be after the All-Star break. The question is when after the All-Star break. That's the closest thing we can get to a realistic estimate right there, right now. And at least there's some information. One of the things I see, you're in Houston, right, Mike? And
yes,
and the Astros, they're like a hockey team. They say nothing.
That's true. That's true. And
right?
they've done
upper body, lower body at best.
Being a broadcaster for the Astros, it kind of drives us crazy because, we want to talk about it, but they keep things very close to the vest.
Yes, and love Dusty Baker and the whole thing,
Mm-hmm.
but that's kind of what the service that we provide. We give you the best guess situation and educated guess, insider knowledge of what it might be, especially when teams aren't A, saying what it is,
right,
or B, sometimes purposefully not saying truthfully what it is, right? I mean, and I'm not banging on any coach or team or manager for doing that, but we all know that happens, coach speak and so forth in all sports.
Well, we appreciate you joining us, Doctor. And I guess the bottom line is we're still in a wait and see with Aaron Judge here, and it's not going to be any time in the next at least immediate couple of weeks here. As you said, and
the other takeaway besides it not being immediate and perhaps post All-Star break is don't expect them to see him in there DHing. I mean, this is not a Ronald Acuna situation coming off the ACL where you can just DH him the whole year and not put him out in the outfield because of its back foot, big toe, and so forth. That's probably the additional takeaway and potentially bad news for Yankees fans.
Gotcha. Right. And the Yankees, as we tape this podcast, are 8-11 without Aaron Judge, scoring 2.95 runs per game in those 19 games. That's significant without their anchor in that lineup.
That sounds like my Padres this year.
Thank you so much for your information and your time, Doctor.
All right, thank you guys.
Appreciate it. Mike, just circling back to a couple things with the Yankees too. Looks like Carlos Rodon will be back in their rotation at least All-Star break. He's got one more rehab assignment start on this coming Saturday, which would be July 1. After that, he's back. Everything goes well. He's back in their rotation, so he gets one start potentially before the All-Star break, and they'll have him in the second half, hopefully.
Well, that's a huge addition. I mean, because there's two ways to win a baseball game. I mean, you obviously have to score more runs. That's a given. But, it's either by outscoring the other team or run prevention. And with Aaron Judge out after that long conversation there with Dr. David Chao, it doesn't look like it's imminent that he's coming back anytime soon. So you have to go the other way. And the pitching staff has done a pretty good job. Over the last month, they're in the top third of team ERA. So they're actually pitching pretty well. So Rodon's going to do nothing but enhance that. And if he's healthy, I mean, we know this dude can be just about as good as anybody in baseball. So we keep, Yankee fans, keep your fingers crossed that last rehab start goes okay, and that you get him back in that rotation and add to that run prevention.
And just kind of wrap things up here too, and going back to the lineup situation, they desperately need Giancarlo Stanton to be their anchor now,
Yes.
without Judge, and sort of be the as we said, the anchor to that offense. I mean, the point where you've got to start producing, and since he's come on the IL, it's nearly a month now. He's got a 429 OPS, 7 for 62, 3 extra base hits, 3 RBIs, and the Yankees' record is 6-12 in the 18 games he's played. That's he talked briefly over the weekend about he's basically still trying to find it, not there yet. It's always been a rhythm and timing thing for Giancarlo, but at some point, you've got to see the production on the field. Just curious what you make of that situation.
He has a really, really complex setup and swing and approach. Now, a lot of times it just looks like he's swinging as hard as he can, but with that big closed off stance, how he likes to drive the ball to the opposite field, there's just a lot of things that are going on there. And, I think the biggest issue isn't necessarily he's not getting base hits. I mean, do you really want Giancarlo Stanton hitting singles? Well, with guys on, that's fine. No, you're looking for the power, and the power has been non-existent. I mean, the few hits that he has gotten, there's just been no damage on those whatsoever. And I don't know if there's another hitter in Major League Baseball that you can see the two extremes from one week to the next. So hopefully that timing does get better, that he has a little bit better, because he also has a tendency to swing out of the zone a lot, especially when he's not swinging well. Be a little bit more selective to be able to get to the balls, but they absolutely need Giancarlo Stanton to step up and be the dynamic power hitter that we know he can be. But yeah, since he's come off the IL, it has been pretty abysmal as far as the power is concerned.
Right. Well, we'll see where they are next week as they go through Oakland, St. Louis this week. Come home for one more home game right before the All-Star break. And as you said, it's getting late early in the American League East, at least.
It is that.
Yeah. Thanks again, Mike. Good to talk to you. See you next week.
All right. Adios.
All right. Take care.